Hey, what is going on, guys? Lon here from Android Authority. And earlier this year, ASUS announced a new line of low-cost Android phones called Zenphones, but are any of them actually any good? Let's take a look specifically at the ASUS Zenfone 5. Alright, so here it is, the Zenfone 5, and starting with the design, it's actually a pretty good looking phone. It kind of reminds me of the HTC One M7 from last year with its slightly rounded corners, flat sides, and curved back, except entirely made of plastic with the exception of the metal accent on the chin of the phone. It's a little thick, coming in at 10.3 millimeters, but the curved back makes it feel thinner than it actually is, and it feels very solid in the hand. The power and volume keys are also very nice and clicky, and the matte finish on the back casing makes it easy to hold while doing a great job of detracting fingerprints. The back is removable, revealing the two SIM card slots and a micro SD slot with support up to 64 gigs. The only part of the design of this phone that I'm not really a fan of is the thick bezels around all sides of the display, making this phone larger than other phones with similar display sizes like the Nexus 5 and the Samsung Galaxy S5. It isn't unwieldy to hold in the hand by any means, as I certainly don't have the largest hands in the world, but the size difference definitely is noticeable. On the back towards the bottom of the phone, you're going to find a single speaker denoted by a series of milled holes in the back casing, but it's not really as big as it looks, and you can see this when taking the back off that the speaker sits only on the left side. So if I were to play a song, and it sounds alright. It's a pretty average speaker. It gets decently loud without sounding tinny, but honestly, I wouldn't expect too much from it. On the front of the Zenfone 5, you're looking at a 5-inch IPS display with 720p resolution, and while it doesn't hold a candle to other more high-resolution displays on the market, it's certainly far from a bad display. Despite the resolution, graphics and text still look pretty sharp, viewing angles are good, and color reproduction seems pretty accurate too, but for being in an IPS display, it's a lot dimmer than I'm used to, even at maximum brightness, making it a little difficult to see outdoors, but other than the brightness issue, it's an overall enjoyable display. The specs on the Zenfone 5 are a little different from what you normally see on an Android phone, as it's being powered by a dual-core Intel Atom processor with 2 gigs of RAM with 8 or 16 gigs of internal storage, and it performs pretty well for the most part. Regular everyday tasks like swiping through home screens, web browsing, and opening up apps are all fairly smooth, but I have noticed some stability issues with certain apps force closing or just refusing to open altogether. It's probably nothing that can't be fixed with a software update, but it's still annoying nonetheless. Gaming, on the other hand, is where this phone really struggles, as games are very slow to load, and while more simplistic games run just fine, graphically intensive games are very choppy and laggy, making them virtually unplayable. Around back is an 8 megapixel shooter with autofocus and LED flash with ASUS's Pixel Master technology, and the camera interface isn't the cleanest or most simplistic, but it does give you a lot of control over your photos for more serious smartphone photography. The shutter speed is a little slow, but there is a burst mode and even a turbo burst mode, which is basically burst mode, but even faster to help make up for the slow shutter. ASUS also packs in a lot of shooting modes into their camera, from basic ones like panorama, HDR, and night mode to more unique features like depth of field and selfie mode, making this camera a lot of fun to use. The depth of field feature is hit or miss. You'll have to have some steady hands when taking these shots, and sometimes you can get some very convincing depth of field, but more often than not it looks rather artificial, even if you have a clear subject of focus. I did like the HDR mode though. I thought it did a great job of balancing out shots without being overly aggressive. Most of the time you'll probably be shooting in automatic, and overall picture quality is decent at best. You can get some great looking shots provided the lighting conditions are right, and color reproduction looks pretty accurate, but this camera lacks dynamic range, resulting in a loss of detail from overexposed lights and underexposed darks. The camera does have an aperture of f2.0, so it's great for low light shots, and if you need even better low light performance, there's a low light mode that actually works surprisingly well at pulling out detail even in almost complete darkness. On the inside, the Zenfone 5 is packing a 2110 mAh battery, and battery life leaves a lot to be desired. I can make it through a full day just fine if I closely monitor my usage, but it was really difficult to make it through the day if I used the camera a lot or I played games for even just 15 to 30 minutes. The best screen on time that I've managed to get so far is about 4 hours, but it typically ranges between 3 to 3.5 hours. ASUS does include some power saving options to help you get the most out of your battery, which I found myself using quite a bit, especially on days where I was out and about and didn't have a charger close by. As far as the software is concerned, the Zenfone 5 is running Android 4.3 Jelly Bean with a promise of being updated to KitKat by ASUS. Not sure when exactly that is going to happen, but on top of Android 4.3 is ASUS's Zen UI, and it's got a lot of great things going for it. The first thing you'll notice is the somewhat unique lock screen with its spotlight effect that follows your finger with shortcuts to your camera, dialer, text messaging, and important calendar and weather information, which are all very useful features. Diving in further, the Zen UI is actually pretty clean looking and adds a lot of extra functionality that aren't gimmicky without taking away from the core Android experience. Swiping down on the left side of the notification shade will take you directly to your notifications, while swiping down on the right side will take you to your quick settings. There's also a brightness slider built directly into the notification shade, and along with some of the more basic toggles like Wi-Fi, GPS, and airplane mode, there's a lot of really useful ones like the flashlight, calculator, and quick memo. But if it looks a little too cluttered or there's some toggles that you don't care to use, ASUS does give you the option to edit and remove them if you want. ASUS has also added in an easy mode with larger icons and text, creating for a more simplistic user experience, and a glove mode if you need that increased touchscreen sensitivity. The Zenfone 5 is available now for a supposed price of $150 off contract, but if you're in the United States, you'll be hard pressed to find this phone for less than $200, as ASUS has not officially made this phone available in the US, which is kind of a bummer. Connectivity wise, there is no LTE, but it does support both AT&T and T-Mobile's 3G bands if you're inside the United States looking to get one for yourself. But there you have it for the Zenfone 5. For a budget smartphone, it's got a lot of good things going for it, like the solid build quality, a decent looking display, and a lot of very useful software features. It does fall short in some areas like the performance and battery life, which could potentially be improved with future software updates, but you can't expect to win them all, especially at this particular price point. But that is pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, give it a thumbs up down below, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, which is also down below. And once you're done doing all that, make sure to check out the website at androidauthority.com for more in-depth coverage. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and keep it locked on Android Authority, as we are your source for all things Android.